All right, now we're back. We covered psychosis, delusions, hallucinations. Going to move on here. Understanding psychological mental illness. It says between '06 and 2010, we have 1 in 10 adults reporting frequent mental distress for 14 or more days. I'm sure the numbers are more now. We're getting through a pandemic, and there's just a lot going on right now in the world. It's not an easy time period, I guess you could say. Causes of psychological disorders. So we have genetics, the brain chemistry in the brain. Okay. Some people have a different genetic makeup. Brain damage from injuries, tumors, or infections, drugs such as cocaine, drugs, and alcohol can cause. It's a depressant. The drug is a depressant, alcohol. And what it does, when you get drunk, when one gets drunk, they're excited, but then when one comes down from alcohol, it is a depressant. Extremely stressful experiences. For me, it was a stressful experiences, kind of made me have issues mentally. Pollutants. Fewer than 50% of Americans seek treatment. Why? Well, there's many reasons. Some people are ashamed to admit. Some people think that it's a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to get help. Treatment can be counseling, group therapy, support groups, medication. These are all types of mental health therapists. Again, if you ever go to seek help, look at credentials. I mentioned credentials earlier. These are all the credentials, and you can look in your PowerPoint or pause the screen and take a look at this. Generalized anxiety disorder, uncontrolled chronic worrying and nervousness. In generalized anxiety, one will anticipate the worst case scenario. So let's say you got written up at work. I'm just giving examples here. That person with anxiety disorder might think, oh no, I'm going to get fired. When in fact, you're probably not getting fired. Maybe it's just a first warning, or your throat's sore. One might think, they might go to the worst place. Like, what's wrong with my throat? Do I have some kind of disease? It might just be a cold. I don't know. You might worry about money, that you're going to have enough to pay for your house or your apartment. Then you have phobias, intense irrational fear of objects or situations. Panic disorder, this is where one gets panic attacks. Loss of emotional control. And then you have trauma-related disorders. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. People throw these letters around way too much. This is a serious mental illness condition. And people associate it with going to war and coming back from war, and then they have PTSD. There's many different kind of PTSD. It could result from losing a house, being in a fire, maybe. That could cause PTSD. Maybe an abusive relationship. It could be a family member gets ill. There's different triggers for PTSD. And what happens is one will keep replaying this horrible traumatic experience in their mind. Acute stress disorder. One can have severe anxiety on a daily basis. And then you have adjustment disorders. This is where you have a difficult life event, maybe a major illness, death of a loved one, and it's a big adjustment. And you're experiencing symptoms because of the adjustment. OCD, another 3 letters. Well, the first one was 4 when I said PTSD. 3 letters, OCD, gets thrown around too much. This is a serious mental health condition. So don't throw these letters around unless you have obsessive compulsive disorder. Repetitive thoughts that produce anxiety. Give you an example here of hand washing. One might be obsessed and they might worry that they have germs. So they constantly wash their hands. Okay, but this starts to interfere with life because you're washing your hands so much that it's taking maybe 30 minutes out of your day and it's disrupting the life. Hoarding disorder. There's a video about hoarding disorder. Okay, and more mental health, trichomania, pulling hair out. Sorry if I mispronounced that one. ADHD, gambling. Gambling's legal now in so many states. And a lot of people have problems because they can't control the gambling. Here are some features of gambling problems. You can pause the video and look. Depressive disorder. Just feeling hopeless, helpless, worthless. Seasonal depression can happen. Sunlight is good for the brain, and a lot of times people can have seasonal affective disorder. They don't have enough exposure to light. My mother has this, and she actually got a light in the house that shines on her. Was part of her treatment plan. My mother has she needed this kind of this was part of the treatment for her. And then you have bipolar disorder. Typical symptoms of bipolar, there's extreme highs and lows, easily distracted. The lows is like very depressed. The highs is very impulsive and restless. Eating disorders are a mental health condition. Anorexia, you have anorexia, you have bulimia. What anorexia is, one is a fear of gaining weight. And there are symptoms here. Again, you can pause the screen and read those if you wish to. Bulimia, this is where one binges on food and then purges food. Binge eating disorder, secretively eating a lot of food in response to emotional distress. There's different ways one might purge. Oh, sorry, binge eating is no purging. Back to bulimia, one could purge through exercise. One can purge through vomiting or laxatives. Female athlete triad. This is another feeding or eating disorder. Okay, it causes loss of menstruation, and it can cause osteopenia, which is in the bones. Muscle dysmorphia. This is for men, most commonly. Weightlifters, bodybuilders. It's disordered eating, and it's just a dissatisfaction with the body. Might look in the mirror and just not be satisfied. And it's a greater risk for using steroids here. Psychotic disorders, we have schizophrenia. Back in the early 1900s, people were believed to be possessed by demons if they had schizophrenia. And this is the furthest thing from the truth. Where mental health is becoming more normalized. Schizophrenia is a mental health condition, and the symptoms are hallucinations, delusions, strange behaviors, disjointed speech. Suicide. Suicide, and we don't say, this is wrong. You don't say commit suicide anymore. One dies by suicide. Criminals commit crimes. Okay, so this terminology, I'll need to fix this. Although suicide is not a psychological disorder, often it's related with mental illness. Suicide prevention. You want to consider, these are certain risk factors here. One might be preoccupied with thoughts of death, history of suicide attempts, family history of suicide attempts, marital or financial problems. This is a serious thing. We have resources in the course and course info. There's a lot of resources. You can always reach out to me as well. Suicide prevention, mental health centers. We have 24 hours a day. Here's one resource right here. Okay, again, you can reach out to me if you ever feel like you need to talk. I'm not a counselor, but I can get you to the right person. Okay, that's the end of this unit. More to come.